have a question for you. You mentioned the days of Noah.
Yeah.
And Noah lived. He was born 600 years before the flood, and 300 and died 350 years after the flood. All those things are the days of Noah.
Yeah.
The Babel incident.
Yeah.
Did that happen within that 350 years after the flood?
Yes. Yeah. It's somewhere around 100 years after the flood, as you get the dating using the genealogy, and then that's the same accounting for that same date. In the Polychronicon and Masonic history. So, yeah, he would have been around at that time. And you just have to know, Noah didn't provide him the technology to build the city or the tower.
Yeah.
So where did it come from? And so the Masons say it came from Hermes finding the knowledge of the antediluvians. And in their accounting, you have two pillars of Lamech, the pillars of Enoch. There's two different versions of it, same story though, that had the location to the knowledge that was buried in 9 vaults and 36,525 books. Stacked in 9 vaults, stacked on top of each other below the Great Pyramid. And that he found the one that floated because the other one was to survive an apocalypse by fire. So this one he found it could float. So it would survive an apocalypse by water. And then he brings that back to Nimrod. And so Nimrod takes this knowledge and develops the knowledge, and he's accredited with being the first Grand Master of Masonry after the flood. He writes the first post-Diluvian constitution. That isn't reformed until Heliopolis reforms it down the road, about 1,000 years down afterwards.
Wow.
And so this is the knowledge that he's building this tower with, and this is angelic technology.
Yeah.
Nobody, I don't think, really believes that Nimrod felt he could build a tower into the heavens, which would be beyond the firmament, right? And beyond that, right? You just can't build a stone structure that high. But he was trying to build it into heaven. And in other accountings, he was threatening God in his hubris speeches with his temerity that he would, if God stepped out of line, he would cross into heaven and slay God. And if God ever threatened to bring about another flood, he would do the same thing. So a stone tower or brick tower or a pyramid is not going to get you there. But in angelic technology, these are thought to be more than buildings. They're thought to be energy and portals and things like that. So in the Akkadian version, you get into their understanding, and they call it Babalu, or sometimes it's Babel, but it's the same word, but it doesn't mean confusion of languages. It means with the ILU or the EL or the AL in Babel, that's an angel or a god. And Bab is a stargate or a portal, depending on how you want to translate that. So he's going to do two things with that technology, and he's an archetypical Antichrist figure, which the Babylon religion is based from, because that is the root word is Hebrew for Babel. Has this universal religion that he imposes on it. So he is doing one of two things. He's wanting to perhaps go into the abyss or into Hades, where the abyss prison is, and free the gods that he's starting to worship with the Enochian mysticism that he implemented on the people at Babel, because that was part of the knowledge that was provided by Hermes. Or he's actually was going to try and do what Antichrist is going to do in Daniel 8:10, where he goes into heaven and storms heaven. And I think that timing is perfect as for the time of the angelic war in Revelation 12 at the midpoint of the last 7 years, and is going to try and storm heaven. And he actually succeeds in throwing down some of the starry host and trampling on them. And with a technology that you can go interdimensionally, either into the abyss or into heaven. And, you wonder whether or not that technology allows them to be the ones that are going to unlock the abyss in the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm. It really makes you look at, again, just like we were talking about with superheroes, it makes you look at Stargate with a different set of eyes. That like,
Yeah.
dude, they're combining interdimensional gateways with Egyptian mythology, the cosmos, and the pyramids, and
So
it's like,
let me
yeah.
go ahead. Let me just sort of link this back to some of the stuff that we were talking about
Oh, yeah,
earlier in the show. So when we talked about the world being this sort of computer-generated quantum computer projection, and that we're talking about cryptocurrency that works in tandem with this sort of technology, there's a word that they use in the occult for both crypto and interdimensional technology, and it's called geomancy. So geomancy has a few different meanings. Everybody knows it's like the divination of geographical features and looking for water and stuff like that, and or ley lines. They like to use their geomancy for the power grid that they like to search for, and that these great sites were built on ley lines. And very sort of renowned ancient worship sites. It's the art of arranging buildings on these sites. So there's an art or a technology or a science to doing that. And it's also understood as being, as a geomancer, you are like a gatekeeper who can create portals between worlds. So when you talk about this interdimensional technology that we were talking about earlier, that's using that quantum and AI computing, we need to understand that this is all part of that encrypted science, and the science of codes, the science of understanding the matrix and decoding that and then manipulating that. And that geomancy has the ability to create projections, as in holograms. It's part of that same sort of art and science. So when we're talking about that image of the beast, it starts to sort of make some sense. And that this was it's also known in Taoism, the former religion before Taoism, as we understand it from the dragon creator gods. There's a following in there called the Feng Shui. And that is an understanding of working in the spiritual realm at the quantum level.
Yeah.
And it's a blend of intention and observation, and is working on consciousness and the vibration and the entanglement of particles as you introduce this geomancy sort of technology. And it's that they believe that the universe is a fabric in Feng Shui, and not matter, but energy and information. So again, it's the same thing as the divine essence that we were talking about, and that everything vibrates with its own consciousness, and that they're able to communicate with these particles, not just receive. They're talking about communication with this divine essence. That's all part of it. And so it's the eternal knowledge of the omnipresence in there. And it is just an amazing renaissance to the days of Noah, as it was both before the flood and then again after the flood, and including Babel, as you're talking about, as to that technology and the interaction of the fallen angels and the giants. And those words, like the days of Noah, they're there specifically as written, and Jesus, being the Word of God, he chose his words quite accurately, and as it was written down in Greek, and it's the same exact words to describe Noah's generation. The days of Noah were, and it gives you his lifespan in Genesis 9:29. It's the same days of Noah that is talked about in 2 Peter, in terms of the crimes that were committed by the fallen angels at the time of the flood in the days of Noah, both before and after the flood. It's very, very specific language. In the days of Noah, I mean, a day can be a year or a generation. or it could be a single day, or it could be multiple days. It's how it's sort of implied. But when you see the fig tree generation immediately before the days of Noah, and it's the exact same language to the days of Noah generation, it starts to make some sense. And we need to understand everything that was going on, both up to the time of the flood and then up to 350 years after the flood, if we want to understand the signs that Jesus provided us.
Yeah. That's one thing that has really given us pause, and talking to you and talking to others over the past couple of years is the mirroring nature of Scripture, and how like you can really find a compass heading, a bearing by looking, just like what got you into it. Looking at prophecy sent you to prehistory.
Yeah, absolutely. Renewed my interest in prehistory for sure. And that great term that is talked about in Ecclesiastics, that nothing is new under the sun. What was will be again, is something we really have to understand. And so when we see the beast empires that have come along after the flood, they're just trying to recreate what happened before the flood. And they're trying to recreate this Antichrist Nephilim type of character, because by inference, if it's nothing is new under the sun, and it's going to be like the days of Noah, then you would have had an Antichrist Nephilim figure before the flood.
Yeah.
And that Antichrist spirit has been with us all the time and has been trying to create a scenario through the beast empires where they can raise up an Antichrist figure like an Alexander, like a Nebuchadnezzar, except that that's what Michael is there to prevent. He doesn't prevent the beast empires from coming. He prevents the Antichrist from seizing power, because the beast empire is that infrastructure with its universal religion, with its beast religion that's part of all of the beast empires, which it will be reformed with the 10 King Empire, who hands their power over to the beast.
So you have Atlantis, which was wiped out, and then you have it seems like when they were building Babel, when they were building the tower and the city, it's almost like they were trying to reestablish what they had lost in Atlantis. God thwarts that, of course, but then again, we see it in Revelation, they're going to try again. It's like they're trying to reestablish the system that they had. And so Babylon is I guess a corollary to Atlantis.
Yeah.
And an Antichrist dream is to do and try and do what Lucifer tried to do, what Satan tried to do. So in Isaiah 14:12, he tried to raise his throne into heaven to be like God. Right? Antichrist is the one that's going to do that. And 2 Thessalonians 2:4 says he will claim to be God in the holy temple.
Yeah.
And he's the one who will enter into heaven along with the armies of the fallen ones to make war. But of course, they'll lose that and they get thrown down to the earth for the last 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even wrap my head around what that is going to look like. I'm sure John had trouble doing it, and he was seeing it in a vision.
How does John?
Yeah, he saw it, and all he could do is write it down to what he saw.
Yeah.